If you want to cook more meals for you and your family, you have to have a well-stocked kitchen. If you only have a few ingredients on hand, you're going to run into the issue of having to spend a lot of energy not only on just figuring out what to cook and cooking it, but also very likely having to run to the grocery store. Or the other problem is, if you don't want to run into the grocery store, you're very limited on your choices of what you can make. And so it's definitely a good idea to figure out what are the ingredients that you're using really often in your cooking, and then making sure you stock up on them every single time you do a grocery shop. I keep a list of all the things I know I need on a regular basis in my kitchen, and whenever I am ordering my groceries, which I these days almost always do online, it's just so much easier, I run through that list and see what's missing. So in this video, don't think that this is everything I need all the time. And also some of these things that you will see in this grocery haul are not things that I will always buy. It's just maybe things that I buy once a month, or maybe even less frequently than that, just whenever we run out of them. Also, don't think that I always make a beautiful display of all of my groceries on my counter. That's very much for the aesthetic purposes of this video and the thumbnail. All right, let's get into it. I have split the video into the categories of the type of foods or ingredients, and let's start with fresh produce. For my veggies, I picked up some potatoes, onion, and garlic. I think it's pretty clear why those are the staples. Now, when it comes to the garlic, that's the one that I like to buy in bulk. And then what I do with it is I keep maybe one head of the garlic kind of fresh and just keep it in the pantry. But then for the other ones, I will take the skins off and separate them into the individual cloves, and then I will put them in the freezer to keep them fresh for as long as possible. I also got some cherry tomatoes, bell peppers, and a kohlrabi. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I think it's also called the turnip cabbage, even though it's not technically a turnip. I don't know how common this type of vegetable is in other countries, but it's super common here in the Czech Republic. And all three of those things I just keep in the fridge, and it's something that we can easily snack on, maybe in the evening when we're watching some TV, or just whenever throughout the day, or just throw them into some salads or whatever other cooking that I'm doing. And lastly, I've got some bulb celery and some parsley, and that is the root of parsley. And so what I'm doing with those, together with some carrots, which I already had in the pantry, is I'm making these little packages that I will put in the freezer, and later I will use them to make broth. That's because it's those three vegetables that are very commonly added to both chicken and beef broths, together with an onion, but I always have fresh onions on hand, so that's not an issue. It's those three vegetables that I don't always keep, and so it's nice to have them packaged up like this in the freezer to use whenever I need to make a fresh batch of broth. When I'm putting them into these packages, I'm not even bothering with peeling the carrots and the parsley. I do try to cut off the little bits of the celery that have more of like the stem or whatever, or the root. And of course, if there is any dirt on it or anything, or the skins don't look particularly good, then yes, I will peel them, but otherwise I'm just keeping them on. And then for the fruits, I always try to get some apples, some pears, bananas, and grapes. Those are, again, just something that we will eat whenever for a snack when we're just a little bit hungry and it's only, an hour till dinner time or something. Or if we're traveling somewhere, it's so easy to just cut up pieces of an apple or a pear, give that as a snack to the little one. It's just super effortless, I would say. Now, all these things I've mentioned in the produce category are things I can get here in the Czech Republic all year round. And so they are very much the staple of my grocery list. But I cannot wait for the spring and especially summer to arrive when the selection is so much bigger. Like, yes, I can get other things even now, but they're just not that great. I mean, when you have, all of these fruits and vegetables that are shipped half across the world, it's just, they're not gonna end up tasting amazing. So I would rather just wait for the season to hit here in the Czech Republic, and then it's just, I can go all out on the fresh fruits and vegetables. Next up, we've got the meat category. What I got this time, and I'm not sure if I ever don't get that, is minced meat. I use it so much in all of my cooking. I feel like it is the most versatile type of meat that you can probably have in the kitchen. It can be used for so many things, for all of your meatballs and burgers and patties, and add it to pastas and baking it into all sorts of pies, adding it into soups, just so many things that you can do with it. Plus, it's so easy to store in the freezer and it thaws out really, really quickly. And so it's just super, super convenient to use in the kitchen, I feel like. I also got some bacon. I will keep some in the fridge for whatever cooking I will need that for, but the other package I'm actually going to cut up, as well as one of the onions, and I'm going to brown those two and then put them in these little containers, silicone containers, freeze them. And this is just a great mix to have for your scrambled eggs in the morning. So I always like to have that pre-made on hand so that I don't have to spend the additional 10 or 15 minutes every morning when I want to make scrambled eggs, because we really like them with the bacon and the onion, but it's just a lot of extra time in the morning when you're hungry and you just want to have your breakfast ready as soon as possible. Next up, we've got the category in which I have the most amount of individual packages or individual foods, and that's dairy. I've already mentioned in one of my previous videos that we love yogurt. We eat it all the time, whether it's with some breakfast cereals or just some plain yogurt with some fruit, again with bananas. I mean, that's just great. Or the yogurt that has some flavor to it just on its own as a snack. It's just, again, so versatile. I feel like I add the plain white yogurt into baking as well. So we always need to be well stocked on yogurt in our family. What I also get as a snack is these pre-made smoothies. And I know they are pre-made, so probably not the most amazing thing. It would definitely be better if I just made them myself. But then again, they just use these tiny bits of all sorts of fruits that I just don't have on hand. Plus these ones we really, really like the taste of. So that's what we always keep as well. Then we've got milk. I always keep quite a few cartons of milk on hand. It's something I use every single day, even if it is just for the morning coffee and for myself some black tea with milk. But usually I will use it a lot more than that during the day for all sorts of cooking as well. And so I buy either this one in the cartons, that's the one that gets processed through the ultra high temperature, I believe is what it's called, that process. And so it lasts for months. You don't have to keep it in the refrigerator, only once you open the box, of course. And so that's very, very convenient to have. But sometimes we also do get raw fresh milk and just drink that usually on its own. Another food in this category is cheese. In this grocery haul, I got some cheddar cheese that we were already out of, and only fairly recently, less than a year ago, I have realized how long cheese lasts. I never really looked at the packaging, I guess. I never really thought about it. And so I didn't know that your cheese can last a year and beyond. And so again, it's just convenient to stock up on, because then you can use it again for so many things, especially cheese like cheddar, Parmesan, mozzarella. Those are the ones that I always like to keep in the fridge. And the last dairy product I got this time is some mascarpone, because I am planning to use that in a pie that I'm baking for the weekend. Finally, the last category, I guess you could call it miscellaneous or maybe pantry staples. We've got some flour. I always make sure I have all of my baking goodies ready because I bake all the time, so that's definitely a must for me. I also got some pasta and rice that we were running out of, some granola for breakfast, lots of dark chocolate. I haven't had that in stock for quite a while, and I always found myself missing it in all sorts of recipes or whenever I was just whipping up something on a whim, and the dark chocolate would have been so nice in it. So I'm glad that I finally remembered to add it back to my list and shop for it. I got some salt, of course. You cannot cook without that. And I also got this spice mix that is for gingerbread. You may have seen my gingerbread cookies video. That's where I used it. But again, I use it in other cooking or baking recipes as well. So that comes very handy to have. I got 2 cans of cut tomatoes. Again, so many dishes that I add them to all the time. And last but not least, some orange juice. And that is everything I bought this time. Again, I have a much longer list of all of my essentials, and I always just pick the things that we are currently missing. So the entire list of what I keep stocked in my kitchen is a bit longer than this. But I hope that this was still helpful. And I just wanted to as well mention that I do this kind of a big grocery haul maybe once every 2 weeks, maybe even less frequently than that. And that's really why I like to buy a lot of things at once and then only buy like the 1 or 2 odd things that I need for a specific recipe throughout the week in a regular grocery store that's somewhere on the way on my trip to somewhere else or whatever. So again, I hope you found this video helpful, and I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Let me know what are the things that you always look for that maybe you haven't seen in this video. And that will be everything from me today. I will see you next week. Bye.